One of the other things I wanted to kind of tackle, since this is going to be a part of art, and it's a situation that a lot of people aren't super into, but I think it just depends on how you digest it. And that's competition. There's a couple different ways to kind of see this, because I'm sorry, I'm just trying to like orient myself in how I want to like tackle this. I'm gonna just go from your guys' perspective, anyone watching this, because most likely you came from like, I learned art online, like I got inspired by people online and then I've learned it. Maybe you went to school, maybe not, whatever. But you see a lot of artists and you see a lot of work. As I mentioned before, there's an abundance, there's a saturation, and there's a saturation of good stuff too. That's what makes it a little scary. And I just wanted to like really affirm that there is competition in art, but it's not how you think. It's not like you're competing for the best. You're not like, oh, I'm trying to win, whatever. It's a friendly competition. And I think this is by far the best way to go about it, because, you know, when you're not on this road alone, you're not going against other people, then let's just segue there now. The thing about art is it's not about who's the best, right? No one's ever, like, if we're gonna go with who's the best, then we have Michelangelo and all those, you know, Leonardo da Vinci. We've got all those Renaissance painters. They're the best, quote unquote. Done. Now we don't have to do our art anymore because they were the best. So, oh well, good try, guys. All right, see you next time. No, that's not how art is at all. Art is not about being the best remotely. Whenever you're considering that, just keep in mind how life-changing those Renaissance paintings were. Because for the most part, they're not. They're impressive, sure. And then if you see them in life, you're like, wow, that's really impressive. But do you guys, like, is that actually life-changing for you? Like, did that influence you at all? Or are you just like, you know, it's good. It's pretty. I like it. Cool. Like, I'll look at a furry drawing or a character design that I'm like, I'm in fucking love with this. Like, I love this. Literally love this. And that's amazing. Like, I don't feel love, but I love that. What the fuck? That's strong, you know? Something, I'll finish a game and I'll be like, fuck me, it's over. That was so good. You know, I'll play like something like Undertale and it's like, wow, the way he's weaved all this, like, this is so beyond, like, this is such an experience. It's so fucking cool. And like, that, all this stuff holds like way above any of that Renaissance stuff. The Renaissance stuff is good, objectively good, for sure, 100%. And like, it's incredibly impressive, for sure. But a lot of the stuff then, I mean, it's a different time. Art then was more for the rich people, the wealthy. They commissioned it. So it was either portraiture or like religious work, right? So it's like its purpose was to record, you know, that's basically a lot of what it was. And for us now, it's so much more. It's exploring anything. It's creating worlds. It's asking questions. It's all this shit, you know, it's, and that is so much more effective. You know, we look at stuff that's like, oh, like, I got into art because of Pokemon. I got into art because of Blizzard. I got into art because of World of Warcraft, you know? Like, I fucking blah, blah, blah. I spent a year, like, literally playtime, a year on World of Warcraft. Like, I've done 10,000 games in Overwatch, whatever, you know? Like, that is way more of your involvement than any Renaissance painting will ever get. I promise you. There are people who are like, dude, I would fuck Crystal Fox, you know, I want to be Crystal from Star Fox, like, I want to be her, right? Like, no one wants to be anything in a Renaissance painting. So just keep that in mind. Like, the goodness is, the quality is not what art's about, ever at all, remotely. It's about more the, like, what you're saying, how you're communicating it. These are way more important, because that's the meat and potatoes of art. It is what the communication is what art is about, in my opinion. And it seems like it's too, because again, no one's worshiping the Renaissance paintings. Like, we appreciate them. They're great. Cool. But they're not fucking people up as much as other art is these days. So yeah, I just really wanted to put that out there. So let's go back to how this relates to competition. So technically, and depending on where you are or what you're doing in art, it is going to be competitive. So I guess the most like blatant example is going to be in the industry. The industry is animation, film, game industry. They're very competitive fields. If you're going for AAA stuff, like really high end things, you know, Blizzard, Disney, Pixar, then yeah, it's totally competition. You have to be able to perform incredibly well And not only I can draw, but you have to draw quickly. You have to be able to pump out ideas really quickly, very well, in a solid style that's like not only theirs, but also your own, have your own voice, and be able to offer something new, right? So it's like a ton of like expectations, but these are the best of the best. The best of the best, right? So it's incredibly, incredibly competitive, but at the same time, they have like, you know, beginner areas, they take on some more junior roles, and there is room to grow. So this video isn't about like how to get into the industry or anything like that. Tons of other, those Bobby Chiu videos, they probably have way more insight on that, but you know, I just wanted to put that out there. That's probably the top of the top as far as competition goes in art, right? If we're talking about other stuff like, say, more indie freelance or studio work, but like smaller studios, that's even like, there's still competition, of course, but there's an abundance of the need for art these days. So there's probably a place you could fit if you're a professional, right? If you know what you're doing, if you're fast, if you're good, not the best, but you're pretty good, you know, then you could probably find a place, probably with not too little effort. You might have to look around. It's good to have connections, obviously, but you know, there could be a place for you for sure. If we're talking about art stuff like commission work, whatever, you might feel that the competition's a little bit more close, but that's just because we're all really close knit, right? Like, we're watching each other stream, we're commenting on each other's stuff, we just talk to each other on Telegram, on Discord calls, whatever. We're all really close knit. And I think the other thing, like especially with the furry fandom, or any like fan art fandom, like the Steven Universe fandom, or fuck something else, Pokemon, you know, whatever. They're way more close knit, right? And like, especially with the furry stuff, like our kinks are kind of close knit too. So it's like, oh, I do cute stuff. Okay, cool. I know all the other cute artists, whatever. So you might feel a bit more like you guys are in competition. But I just want to like it's not like that. You know, as someone who's been being in the fandom for 11 years, 12, and working with people all the time. I've befriended a ton of artists. Like, everyone's super cool. Everyone's fucking chill. And like, there's no one's ever like robbed each other of commissions. Like, if someone is like the go-to person, they don't have time to take all those commissions anyway. So it's like, it doesn't matter. The coolest part is we all have our own visions. So even if there's like, this person's really good and they're fast and whatever, it's like, yeah, but you're not going to get that from this guy. Like, this person has their vision, and this is a different thing entirely. You won't get that from this guy. And sometimes you get those commissioners who are like, hey, can you emulate this guy's style? Which, fuck that. Don't do that. Don't indulge in that shit. That's not why you're an artist. So, I mean, do what you gotta do if you gotta pay the bills, but like, I think that stuff's lame. If you're a commissioner and you've ever said those words, don't do it. It's messed up, man. So just wanted to kind of like re-chime in there. It might feel like a competition, but the only competition I want you to feel and like look at and kind of focus on is the friendly, competitive, like, we're in this together, right? Like, I want to draw something and impress my friends, and then they're gonna draw stuff and impress me, and I'm gonna be like, fuck, I wanna get good, you know? I want to like, I want to do this, you know? But like, don't be afraid to talk to each other either, because you're in this together, right? So like, dude, what the fuck? That rendering on the clothes is so good. What did you do? I'm like, oh, I used this reference. Look, I actually just straight up copied it. And you're like, oh, well, fucking, it looks really good. It worked. You know, like, everyone's really cool with each other. Everyone's really friendly. We like to talk and like share whatever we have. That the competition, the idea that, you know, people are out to get you, or like, oh, I'm a fraud, this is hard, whatever. A lot of people have that, but it's like in your head. It's not real. It's just, it's something you kind of think and like imagine and fester on, so it becomes real because you just kind of think about it and you're like worry about it. But when it comes down to it, dude, like, no one is doing that. No one's competing. There's enough interest in art out there for everyone. You know, obviously, if you don't have the chops there yet, if you're still like in the beginner stages and you don't really know what you're doing, don't have a voice yet, then, you know, it's going to be hard. But it's not because of competition. It's just because you're not there yet, you know? And again, you got to be okay with where you're at, right? So realize, okay, this is where I'm at. Now I know how, like, now I know that I got to continue. Now I got to fucking, you know, I got to keep pushing, and eventually I'll be there, and then everything's going to be fine. So yeah, I don't know. This competition thing's really hard. I don't have any straight up answer as to how to fix it, except talk to people, befriend artists, have fun, because that's how you're going to figure it out. That's how you're going to like see firsthand that it's not a competition, that we're not working against each other, that we're with each other all the way. Oh, this is it. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad I remember this. Some people say that it's not a good idea to compare your art to others. And I disagree with this, but I agree that it can be very toxic to do it. So this comes down to how you are comparing yourself to others, right? Like, you can't be unreasonable. You have to remember all that stuff I said before. Remember your expectations. Remember where you are. Be able to zoom out. Have mental fortitude. All of this stuff. Be in control of your emotions. And, like, remember you're a student. They're a student too. And you're in this together, right? If you have all of these things in mind, then it's going to be a lot easier to look at everyone's work as, like, objectively and not personally, right? So when you're looking at someone else's work and you're like, oh no, I'll never be this good, blah, blah, blah. This is the bad stuff. That's when you don't want to do that. That's when I don't encourage you not to look at people's art, because that's when you stay in your own bubble. That's terrible. In fact, like, I'll just take a moment to say this now. Like, if you're in the furry fandom, please look at other people's art, not furries, like other art. Go to like CG Society, go to ArtStation, DeviantArt, whatever. Like, you got to look at other people's stuff because they have so much fresher designs, aesthetics, executions, reasons behind why they're doing stuff that other artists like, I'm not tooting my horn, but like, I have a lot of background in other animation stuff and like stuff like that. So if my work seems unique in some way, be it like how I'm painting or, you know, my acting, I guess, or whatever, it's because I'm pulling from other stuff. You know, I'm making a game now because I'm pulling from other games too. So it's like, it's important to be able to look beyond the fandom, right? And that's let alone your own art, right? You have to look at other people's stuff. You have to, or you should. Please do it, please. But yeah, things beyond the fandom, it's another world out there, you know? In the fandom, I'll be blunt, most of us are looking at it because it's like porn or whatever, you know? And I'm sure lots of friends are like, "It's not about the porn," whatever, it doesn't matter. It is character focused, for sure, right? Character design, design in quotes, and character acting, sure, and like, that's pretty much it. Design, acting, maybe pose, you know, and that's pretty much it. Like, I don't want to shit on the furry fandom or why we have like the art that we covet, because the furry fandom isn't about pushing art to the next level. It's about, you know, indulging in these fantasies that are cool, indulging in these other furry worlds, these sonas, whatever. So it's like, it's not meant to be the leading edge of character design. But then you have examples like Blizzard, where they have these Taurens, these, maybe not the Pandarians, but stuff like a Gnoll, you know, or a they're lizard people with like the 4 legs, or like lizard Tauren or lizard tar boys. I don't know, whatever. You have these creatures that it's a creature design, right? Like, there's a pretty distinct difference, I would say, between a furry design and a creature design, right? Like, a furry design ends up looking, you get the more anthropomorphic stuff is a classic, obvious classic, but even still, just in form wise, to me, they usually just look more bangable, and that's usually because they're approaching. So I say bangable, that's kind of like a weird objective thing, but I mean, like, they're form focused, right? You look at a 2D cartoon like Dexter's Lab, and they have little form, and they're way more designerly because their shapes are abstract as fuck. So like, you look at that, and you're like, is that good for porn? Probably not. They're so weird. They're so weirdly shaped. But then you look at a lot of furry stuff, and we make sure we're keeping a lot of form in mind, you know? This butt is round. This leg is a leg, you know, all this stuff. And so you see this emphasis a lot in furry designs. Again, it's not a problem. Furry, you keep doing what you're doing. You guys are great. But artists, if you're looking to push yourself like even further, you have to look at other art. And even like, not only just furries, like way other art. Because those guys are doing stuff. Like, they're drawing circles around us, man. They are painting a storm, and we're like, whoa, shit. And they've got some fresh shit, and we're like, oh damn. And not only fresh designs, but fresh workflows too, you know, integrating 3D into the painting process, blocking out a scene using something like SketchUp, or or like Maya or whatever to like, okay, boom, 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 boom. Here's my perspective. Here's my camera. Cool. This will work for a comic. I'm going to lay this out. Now I'm going to paint over it. Boom. Now I've got my shots already composed. No problem. Right? I'm going to do a huge painting, but this is going to be some really weird perspective. Let's make the camera on my 3D program a different lens, like a wide camera lens, so it still feels more cinematic. Cool. Now I have the thing set up. Now I can paint over this. Like, how many furries do that? Some badass ones, I'll tell you that. A couple of them. I don't know if I should be name dropping here, but like, they're fucking, you know, the ones that have like a step above everyone else, it's because they're employing these techniques that you learn outside of the fandom in the professional world, and then they're taking it into the furry world, so they're able to step it up entirely, right? So that's a great example of where you do want to keep where competition, quote unquote, / looking at other people's art is necessary, you know. The other thing I wanted to talk about with looking at other people's art is actually, like, aside from pulling inspiration, learning is a lot faster if you're not doing it on your own. So if you're drawing by yourself all the time and the only feedback you're getting is yourself, then you're going to learn really slowly because you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. So it's really fucking hard, right? Like, good luck. If you're learning through online resources, YouTubes and stuff like that, now you've got a way bigger scope because there's other people telling you stuff, right? That's cool. But that doesn't cover everything yet, right? One of the things in school, like in art school, that I experienced that I didn't really see around a lot, and they have them here and there, the opportunities, I'll get to in a sec, but it's being there for someone else's critique. And I think this is a really important thing because it allows you to learn off of other people's stuff without doing it, right? Like, you're not drawing here. You didn't draw that. But you could get an idea of what they're thinking, and then you could also get, now with other people's perspectives, if they're critiquing it, or if you are, you have a different idea how to approach it, or like a different feedback. Like, oh, like, I see you drew this here, but what if you spaced it out this way, right? And then you're like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Like, huh, yeah, that could be cool, because then the framing, blah, blah, blah. I'm just, you know, there's no resource I'm pointing at, like, on the screen or anything. I'm fathoming here. But this happened all the time in school. I learned so much through other people's works, through their mistakes, through their successes, that, like, it really sped up the process because it was a bunch of stuff from a range of things. Like, I wasn't the best artist in my school, like, not even close. I was like barely learning, you know. Tons of people were like, oh, I've been drawing forever. I was just like, oh, I've drawn a couple years and it's hard, but yeah, let's do this, right? But I was ready to learn and I was ready to absorb. So as a beginner, like, I was seeing people that were drawing fucking crazy well, and there's so many things that I wouldn't have been able to do draftsmanship wise, for sure. That's a beautiful rendering. Holy fuck, dude. Wow. And then, but even I might have like, oh, but hey, what if you frame this a little differently, you know? Like, if you just move, you got a tangent here, there's a clarity issue here, like, oh, you should have pushed the acting just a little bit because it looks so good, but like, this is a little flat here. Like, you know, you get these ideas and you learn to look at art a little differently. And critique's one of those things that's a bit of a sensitive topic too. And I can talk about that too because that's a fun topic. But so let's talk about that actually. Not quite critique yet, but let's talk about how to distance yourself. This was a really important concept that they mentioned in my school, that you have to be able to distance yourself from your work. As soon as you've drawn a thing, as soon as you've released it, it's no longer you anymore. Like, you did it, yep. But there it is. It's its own entity, and it can be critiqued, it could be torn, it could be it could be improved upon, whatever. But you have to be okay with that, right? Like, I get it. Art's a super personal thing. It's really easy to, like, try to be protective about it and try to come up with excuses for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that if you're getting feedback on something, it's because people are trying to help you, right? If people didn't care, if they didn't know how to help you, they might just say, it looks good, you know, good job, keep going. But at the end of the day, if they're like really giving you feedback, it's because they could see that you could probably grow from it and they want to see you grow from it. So you have to be able to be okay with distancing yourself from your own work and putting it out there, right? A lot of this will even be just posting something. I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't want to post yet because I'm not ready. Oh, I don't want to post yet because, like, I'm nervous or whatever. And, like, I get that, but it's really important if early on you could get over that, because it's just, if you want to be an artist, that means you want to communicate stuff, and that means you want to eventually show people. And that's the whole point. Like, what is art if no one's seeing it, right? Art needs an audience, or nothing happens, right? There's a whole world of other stuff, other mental humps that happen when it comes to posting. So I'm not talking about posting specifically, but I do want to mention that is related to what we're talking about here. So if at all possible, try to get over these things, right? Again, mental fortitude. You know, you don't want to do it. You have these like apprehensions. You're like, fuck, you know, but if you just do it, you're like, fuck it, you know, rip off that Band-Aid, fuck it, boom, send. Who cares? Post it, you know? It's out there now. It's not yours. I mean, it is yours. Take credit for it, you know? Like, I fucking did it, even if it's bad. Like, that was my fault. Yeah, whatever. You know? It's a part of the process. It's fine, right? It's, like, totally fine. Be okay with it. It's so important. Like, it's you gotta be able to just separate and just be okay with this stuff. Kind of along that line, I would like to encourage people to not be so negative on themselves. I guess when I gave that little example, I said that the person posted it and they're like, oh, I'm sorry for this, you know, as if you have to be sorry for anything that you post or make. But that's not true. Like, I know a lot of people who will like post something and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, this is bad. Like, oh, I know this is an eyesore, blah, 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 you know. And that's something I really don't get. Like, I don't know why people would show me something and be like, oh, this probably isn't to your caliber. So, like, you probably don't think it's worthy or something. Like, no one thinks like that, dude. Everyone's cool with art. Like, we know what it's like to be there. So no one's going to be like, oh, this is beneath me. I don't care. Meh. You know, like, that's not how it goes. And you shouldn't look at it like that either, you know? Like, that doesn't help you. You don't benefit from that. It doesn't help you at all being like, I'm so far beneath this person. Oh, I'm sorry I made this piece of shit. You know, like that does no good for you. And it makes you think negatively about your work, you know? Again, if you're okay with where you're at, you're like, I am a piece of shit and that's totally fine. And that's like, whatever, doesn't matter. Then you're like posting it and you're like, yeah, check it out. Boom. Like, you know, working at it. I figured out how to like make an eye, you know, and then someone would be like, well, is that really how you make an eye, or did you just make the shape? And then you're like, what do you mean? Like, well, an eye is like a sphere, and like there's like an eyelid and eyebrows, and then that's when you're like, oh fuck, you're right, dude. There's like more going on. It's not just a shape on a head. There's form and fucking depth in there, you know? And like that's some of the concepts that will like, that'll be a mind blower. You'll be like, oh fuck, all right, okay, maybe now I'll try this a little differently. Now I'll go about this other thing. You know, I'm just like, be okay with your art, be okay with where you're at, be okay with being bad, because this is all a part of it. This goes from being where you're at to realizing the magnitude of art and going through the whole process and getting the proper review you need to help you get even better, even faster, you know? Just going back to the top, fucking do look at other people's art, but learn to be okay with that. Learn to realize that they're better, they've been at it forever, and that's fine. That's not the point. You know, you're looking at it to see, what did they do right? You know? Oh, what did they kind of do wrong? Like, oh, why did they do that? Okay, that's a great fucking question to ask. Why did they do that? Right? So depending on what artist you're looking at, some of them might be kind of more or less like in tune with what they're doing, and some might be a little kind of guessy or something like that. Like, I'll take myself for an example. I'm a very calculated artist. Everything I do has a reason. Everything I do has a purpose. It's all calculated down to a pretty minimal level, you know? Not a lot of artists work that way. Some are more like, oh, I'm feeling this out. You know, like I know this looks good. I couldn't tell you why, but I know it looks good. You know, and a lot of people are actually really good and operate at that with that kind of thinking. Personally, I find that kind of scary, because it's like, if I don't know why I'm doing something, then it's kind of like luck at that point, right? It's like, oh, fucking roll the dice. Like, I crit, yes, it's great. And then if it's like, oh, I fucked it up, like, why though? I don't know. I have no control, right? So for me, learning every step, learning every mechanic, learning all the tools, the techniques, everything I could do to manipulate and create whatever, this gives me the most consistent and most like viable method of art making. I can go from anything. I could try to make a song, and like with very little musical background, I can be a bit more successful than someone who has no idea what they're doing, right? I could try to make a game with, I've never made a game, but this one's looking pretty fucking sweet, you know? Like I know the tools, and it's enough to foundationally make something successful, I think. So when you're looking at art and you're trying to learn from it, like feel free, ask people, why did you do this? You know, like come from an educational, you know, background, like an inquisitive one that you're like, hey, I respect, you're great, I love this piece, I'm curious why you went with this or why you did this, you know, that way you could hopefully learn something from them, you know? Like artists are really cool about talking about their work. Sometimes they're busy. Don't take that as like a dismissive thing. Sometimes you just like, I literally don't have time to talk to you, dude, I'm so sorry. But like for the most part, and you can fill it out artist to artist, you know, obviously I'm kind of more talkative, so if you ask something about mine work, I'm more than happy to elaborate. Probably way more than I should be. Not like there is an amount. I just mean I'll type like fucking 5 paragraphs about one mechanic because I'm dumb and over analytical and stuff. But you know, there's a lot of us out there, you know, that do that, and we will stream or whatever. So there's a lot of ways to reach out to us, and like you want to find those people who you can surround yourself with and learn from. Again, super important to be looking at other people's work and being okay with looking at it and being able to learn and pull from it and stuff like that. Though that, again, that quick disclosure where some artists maybe don't operate like that calculatedly. So if they can't help you, don't like take it personally. Don't think they're withdrawing or like trying to keep a secret in. Though some people try to, you know, keep their trade secrets a secret, but you know, that's not usually always the case. Very little artists I know do that kind of thing, so I wouldn't really worry about it too much. But yeah, again, we're all in it together. It's all great.